Okay, moving on to the first segment of today's show, I want to talk a little bit about this idea that's been floating around by the NBA over the past 24 hours. And apparently, the NBA is actually seriously considering having a separate bubble. And I'm not talking about any of the 22 teams that were involved in the original Orlando, restart plan. It's actually the 8 teams. So in the East, you have the Knicks, the Bulls, the Pistons, the Cavs, the Hawks, and the Hawks and the Hornets, excuse me. And then in the West, you only have 2 teams, the Timberwolves and the Warriors. So basically, those 8 teams are going to go to a bubble in Chicago and play out the rest of the regular season. And here's the thing. There are so many things wrong here, but here's all you need to know. Is that if this doesn't show you how much the owners just care about making money, then you just got to open your eyes, man, because this is crazy. Are we really willing to risk, I don't even know what we're risking, but it's a lot. We're risking players getting sick. And is it really worth risking all that and going through all that and spending all that money for these guys who are out of the playoffs to begin with? They're not playing for anything. They're not playing for any, trophy or prize or any, it's nothing. There's literally no point for these guys to be there. Their season ended. Not only did they not make, the original 16-team playoffs as the season, usually would be in a normal circumstance, but they couldn't even make a playoff that had 22 teams in them. No one wants to watch those teams. I live in New York, right? Do you think anyone is going to want to watch the New York Knicks play against the Atlanta Hawks in a meaningless game? And if the NBA thinks that, Trae Young and, Steph Curry and a healthy Klay Thompson on the teams, on the good players on those teams that made the bubble, if that didn't make the bubble, excuse me, if the NBA really thinks that those guys are going to play and that people are going to watch, they really have to open their eyes, because that's just not the case here whatsoever at all. And I just don't know, it's one of those things where I remember when we were all talking about baseball season possibly not happening, not because of the pandemic, but because the owners and the players just couldn't get on the same page. And I just remember saying, bruh, how dumb could you be? If you really aren't going to play a season because of money during a pandemic when your sport is already losing interest to begin with, then that's on you. And I feel like with the NBA, having one bubble is enough of a risk, And not only that, but inviting 22 teams to that. If you didn't make that 22-team bubble, you just don't deserve to play any more basketball. And not only that, but once again, are the fans going to want to watch? You guys remember the process Philadelphia 76ers or the 7-50 Charlotte Bobcats when there was a lockout that season. You remember how bad those teams were? Do you think, even their fans would want to watch them? No. The only thing I would say, at the very least, from a fan's perspective, is basketball's been off for 4 months, and at least it's something to watch. But here's the problem with that. You're not playing for anything. If it was next regular season, maybe. If it was a preseason training camp, I would be on board. But if that's their argument and that's the thing they want to use, is that those teams want to make sure they're in shape and ready for next season, then they should just be practicing at their practice facility. And here's the other thing. The NBA isn't even starting this up until September. And that's a big issue, and I'll tell you why. On a calendar and from a logistical, theoretical standpoint, the plan makes no sense, because when you look at it, right now, it's supposed to start in September. And in September, a bunch of the teams in the bubble are already going to be, in the Orlando bubble, are already going to be knocked out of the playoffs. So you have the 6 teams that don't even make the 16-team field in the NBA playoffs. They'll be gone. And then this is supposed to start up in September. That's probably when the conference semifinals maybe are about to wrap up. So then you'll have another 8 teams not playing, and then you'll have the other 8 teams that didn't even make the bubble playing in a separate bubble in Chicago. During these times, it's just not worth it for me. You got to ask yourself, when you're doing something like this, what exactly is the risks that you're taking, and what exactly is the reward that you would possibly get if you execute the risk correctly. And for me, In the NBA's case, it's just not worth it. And it doesn't, not only is it not worth it, it doesn't even make any sense for them to even consider it. Because once again, if you have a guaranteed money NBA contract, right? What are you doing here? Like, why would you even show up to play? I understand you haven't played basketball in 4 months, and it's kind of like that from the fans' perspective as well. If one player just says, like, all right, I just want to hoop, like I just want to play in a game, I want to play in a competitive setting, like, I get it, and I'll give that guy props for wanting to hoop and wanting to play the sport he loves, but at the same time, like, why would you? There's no prize, there's no point, there's no purpose. And even as a coach, like, if you're a coach at risk, is that something that you would really want to be interested in? Risking your life, and not risking your life, but risking catching a serious virus. And in a lot of coaches' cases, they're going to have to wear masks. They're going to have to do their best to social distance. It's really, really scary. And this plan just makes no sense to me. Now, there are some positions that, if this plan does end up happening, can benefit. But the question is it really worth it? For teams like the Knicks, teams like the Hawks, teams like the Cavs, the guys that have the guaranteed money, they're not going to play. They don't want to risk injury. Plus, they aren't really playing for anything. They're not playing for a prize. But a lot of guys in the G League can maybe get some recognition. And, even though no one is going to really watch this, if a guy makes an unbelievable play, if a guy hits an incredible three, an incredible pass, you guys know how social media is today. It will be able to, go viral like that. But the problem is, I still just keep on going back to the point, like, is this plan really worth it? And to me, the answer is no. I totally understand that each and every NBA team has just lost a bunch of money throughout this whole coronavirus pandemic, and it's been a very unfortunate time for our country as a whole. But at the same time, we still have to be realistic, and we still have to be concerned about the health of others, and we have to realize, like, does it make sense to do this? And for me, with the NBA, the answer is no. I have no problem with the Orlando bubble. Not only that, but I have no problem calling comfortably whoever wins it a legitimate champion. Because the NBA, and that's the other thing. You guys remember last week on this show when I got on Adam Silver for adding regular season games and wasting time? You know what's an even bigger waste of time? This. I said last week that no one wants to watch, Suns Wizards, who are two teams that, made it to the bubble but have no shot to win the NBA Finals. Then who do you think is going to watch Hawks Timberwolves? I'll tell you who. No one. And that's why this plan by the NBA just makes absolutely no sense. I really don't know what they're trying to do here. And I just don't think they could be that stupid. As much as the owners want to make up their TV contracts, when you look at the fact that there are going to be no fans in the stand, what is the atmosphere going to be like? It's almost going to be like the Big Three or the TBT tournament that we're going to be watching, but the TBT tournament, it's not. The TBT tournament will be better. I actually really like that event. It's actually going to be starting up tomorrow, and I'm really looking forward to it. But look, Adam Silver overall, the one thing I'll give him credit for since he's became the commissioner of the NBA is that, yes, at least the players respect him and are on his side. And we can't say the same about Rob Manfred. Like, we all understand that. You can make your jokes about him right now. But at the same time, what I'll also say is that I think he's a little overrated. I think people just like to criticize him because a lot of people like to consider him the best out of the four commissioners, but I don't think he's that great of a commissioner. Look at the competitive balance of the NBA since he's been the commissioner of the league. It's gone down the drain. Since Adam Silver's became the commissioner, this is where super teams started to become the new norm. And I think for the big picture of the NBA, that's not a good thing. Their ratings are also way down. And yeah, it's good that he has the players on his side, but I don't know if the game of basketball has, increased and improved as everyone makes it out to be since Adam Silver has taken over as the NBA commissioner. I know I say a lot of times on this show, he just does whatever to make himself look good for the camera and the media, and the more and more I evaluate this situation and everything like that, it just makes no sense to me why the NBA would ever consider this.